All right, with Super Tuesday under our belts, it looks more and more like this is going to be a rematch between President Biden and former President Trump. What I'm wondering is, and probably many of you are wondering, what is the third-party presence going to be like? A lot of voters out there interested in alternative candidates, given the high levels of dissatisfaction with both Trump and Biden. Here to discuss who else might be in the race and also give us his take on what happened on Super Tuesday is Matt Welch, editor-in-large at Reason Magazine, where I also work, also hosts a great podcast called The Fifth Column. Matt, it's so great to have you back on Rising.
Thank you very much for having me back.
All right, well, I want to ask you a lot about RFK Jr. and the Libertarian Party, which I know you've been paying close attention to. But first, any general impressions from the Super Tuesday results, takeaways that you would like to share with us?
Just that it confirms what we've all kind of dreaded all along, and there's no magic bullet left. It's going to be these two guys until it's not, or in case it's not, but there isn't any kind of way to prevent this from happening. It's amazing that we're in this place where the two oldest and least popular candidates in the history of running for president, and that 70% of the country doesn't want to see this rematch, that it's happening, but it's happening. And for that, I blame all of us.
I mean, to what do you attribute Trump's unpopularity? Because it does seem as though if the voters are thinking he's too, let's say, right-wing, too MAGA, however you want to frame that, Nikki Haley was an alternative that was right there that obviously, given the news that she's dropped out of the race, was not garnering quite enough support. So what do you think it is that conservative voters are looking for in the alternative?
I mean, I don't know if conservative voters are looking for the alternative. That's kind of the point, you know, like Trump, when he was president, had as high an approval rating among Republicans as any president had. He just didn't have any among independents or Democrats. So he's a highly polarizing figure. There's this sort of cycle doom loop that the media or the anti-Trump crowd, and I'm in the media and I don't like Trump, so you could maybe classify me that way, where they get in, where they just add the high dudgeon of protest to someone who is, you know, high dudgeonable and protestable, and that makes him more attractive to his base. And people haven't figured out how to snap out of that loop, and they're not going to, judging by just looking around at how much wagon circling there has been already among some people, media critics, Democratic operatives, of like saying, it's not true that Biden's too old. That's all in your mind. It's the media. It's the New York Times making it up. So you can see that people are just not ready to face the truth. And the more that an establishment is out there telling people that what they are seeing is not happening, the more that they're going to gravitate to the anti-establishment candidate. And as weird as it is that someone that rich and that famous for so long and was the president is an anti-establishment candidate, that is the attraction. So people should be aware of that as they're battling him.
Indeed. All right. So you have been reporting on Libertarian Party politics for a while. There is this flirtation going on between RFK Jr. and the LP. Obviously, he declined to join the party at one point. My conversations with LP chair Angela McArdle suggested to me that she would have at one point at least liked to have him as the nominee given his COVID stances. Of course, he has so many other differences with libertarians, frankly, even on some foreign policy, Israel type stuff. He's really kind of been hawkish on that. So give me your view. Is this something people just keep saying could happen, but is actually not really realistically going to happen at all?
I think that the people who are most enthusiastic about this are not coming from the RFK camp, are not RFK, certainly not the strategists working for him trying to get him on the ballot in 50 states, which is kind of the whole attraction for the Libertarian Party because they're already on the ballot in 36 states. The people who are talking about this is Angela McArdle, the chair of the party, who is otherwise facing a definite decline in the number of states that the party will qualify on the ballot for, which is kind of a pie in the face. It's a little bit embarrassing. And other people who are kind of circling around. Ron Nielsen was quoted in the piece in The Hill, which is a newspaper I'm sure you're aware of, talking about how that libertarians are potentially very interested in this. Well, Ron Nielsen was the Gary Johnson campaign manager a couple of times, and I'm sure he can imagine a super PAC being used for this purposes. The thing about RFK and the Libertarian Party, he was invited to the California Libertarian Party 10 days ago to speak, along with Cornel West and Jill Stein. She couldn't make it. And they had a straw poll with the presidential candidates. 95 people voted. He got one vote. So I don't think this is happening. And also, it doesn't really make a lot of sense from RFK's point of view, because facing that kind of potential headache, and every single Libertarian Party convention is a headache for the people running, that happens in late May. He's got to do a lot of ballot access work in the meantime, and it's not clear that the Libertarian Party are going to be better than he is at getting ballot access. Ballot access is a problem that you can solve with money. He has money.
Well, that's surprising to me, because we're dealing with something similar on the left, where Cornel West initially announced with the NPP party, later joined the Green Party, the rationale seeming to be, in large part, that the Green Party was better situated and better able to gain ballot access than he was on his own. He has much less money than even someone like RFK Jr. And I'm a little surprised to hear that you don't think that not just the money, but the sort of expertise and infrastructure isn't enough to maybe justify or make it seem more likely or legitimate for RFK Jr. to choose the headache, because the upside is really there. You don't think the Libertarian Party has enough of a benefit for RFK Jr. because of his war chest?
No, it doesn't. I mean, because the thing that it would sell is ballot access in this case, in this transaction. But it would also yoke him with a policy platform that has all kinds of things, which they've honed for more than 50 years, and it hasn't changed that much. Would commit him to any number of policies that most American politicians are unwilling to defend, and in many cases even entertain. He would be brutalized on the floor of the Libertarian Party convention serially, and he already has been by many of the candidates running for office, all in favor, again, to solve a question that he has a pretty good opportunity at solving. He's already qualified officially in about 3 states, unofficially in a few others. He started a political party to get around some of the ballot signature requirements. He's been doing impressive work with ballot access. And again, he has money, and the Libertarian Party does not, generally speaking, nor does the Green Party. Cornel West is his own interesting, frequently shambolic, always entertaining figure. I don't know what his thinking was. Certainly Jill Stein, who has more connections with the Green Party, running maybe dissuaded him from running. I don't anticipate Cornel West getting on that many ballots, although he's already on at least 2.
Just, I do know a lot about this, having interviewed them both on my show.
Good.
I think there was a lot of interest in the Green Party and Cornel West being on the Green Party line, but there did seem to be some issue that Cornel West had with some influence that the Green Party wanted to have over how he ran his campaign that he disagreed with. But there's nothing like the ideological discrepancies between RFK Jr. and the Libertarian Party like there are between Cornel West and the Green Party, which makes it an interesting reality. Could you speak more to what the real big ideological gaps are there that would preclude RFK Jr. from being accepted by the Libertarian Party as is?
Sure. I mean, he's a very hardcore environmental regulator. He is someone who's advocated for the corporate death penalty against not just companies, but think tanks who have accepted money from companies who have not been interested in pursuing a climate reform agenda. He's walked back a little bit from some of those things, but that's pretty aggressively anti-free speech and kind of anti-corporation. He's been against nuclear power, although, again, he's, I think, somewhat moderated that. Libertarians tend to be in favor of that. He has been well to the economic left of the Democratic Party for almost the entirety of his career. Libertarian Party, to the extent to which you can describe it in right-left terms, has been well to the economic right of the Republican Party for a really long time. So I just don't see that particularly mashing up. I think there's some vibes that match up. This sort of anti-establishment vibe that does certainly COVID policy and his stance towards Ukraine, which matches up pretty well with the stances of a lot of the other candidates who are currently running. But as Robbie was alluding to, his stance on Israel is a deal breaker for many people. And just, there aren't that many issues where there is any overlap. And in the other direction, he's been a big government progressive for most of his life. The Libertarian Party ain't that.
Yeah. I think the question was if he was evolving his thinking to be libertarian enough to be acceptable. Obviously, I would say he has still a ways to go, although I do appreciate some of his opposition to COVID-era mandates and some other things. We will see what effect he has in a three-man, three-candidate race in the 2024 general. Matt Welch, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks.